Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
Oh, thank you so much. I want to say welcome again. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited and so happy to see all of you here tonight, especially in these weather conditions. Give yourselves a pat on the back because coming out in this weather, you're rock stars. Thank you so much. It is a joy and an honor and a privilege to be here with you. I have some little funny and wise sayings that children say, and I'll start tonight with that. This is from Britain, 5 years old. He says, "Mama, what's the password to the microwave?" Right? And then this is an anonymous. This is from a 7-year-old. She says, "My name is Liz. Short for lizard, not Elizabeth." Joey, 5 years old, says, "When your heart is broken, it's like a thunderstorm on the inside of you." What wisdom is that for a 5-year-old, right? This is from a 7-year-old. It's anonymous. The 7-year-old says, "I thought I needed a hug, but I really needed pancakes." Right? And the last one is from an anonymous 9-year-old. And I thought this was very, very wise. It says, "You can make a wish, but then you have to do the wish. It doesn't just happen." Right? You have to move your feet. You have to move your feet. That's very wise for a 9-year-old. So tonight I wanted to visit with you and talk about the universe has your back. Is that true? Do you ever have times where you feel like the universe doesn't have your back? Does it ever feel like things are chaotic and chaos and just going crazy? Do you ever feel like that? Well, raise your hand if you have. Okay. Sometimes it can feel like we're wandering aimlessly. I know I have felt that way before myself at different points in my life, like I'm just wandering around like a crazy person. Oh, but what if our defeats were actually protecting us from something, right? What if our defeats were leading us to our greater good, right? What if what was happening to us was really leading us, if we get out of our humanness, is leading us to a higher way? So our first point tonight is to trust the process. Even when it looks like defeat, we need to trust the process of what is happening and what's going on. And can that be hard to do when you're in the midst of chaos and craziness, to trust that process? Mm-hmm. That can be really a challenge spiritually. But I'm gonna tell you a little story tonight. When I was in junior high school, I was very, very shy, extremely shy. Stacy's looking at me like, "No, that can't be true. That can't be true." I was. And I never looked at anybody in their eyes. And I had long, long hair way down to my knees, but I wore it over my face. Do you remember Cousin It from the Addams Family? That's what I looked like. I looked like Cousin It, going around with my head down. Everybody's looking. Right? I was so shy, but I had a dream. Remember having a dream as a kid in junior high? Yeah. I wanted to be a cheerleader, and I would sit in pep rally, and there was a cheerleader that her name was Cindy, and she had her name embroidered in big letters across her uniform, and I would pretend like that was me, and I would just go into a trance during pep rally and just sit there, and that was me, that was me, that was me on the stage. And I wanted to try out one year, and I never could make myself do it, and my mother kept encouraging me, and so the second year, my mother said, Cindy, you know, you talk about this all the time. Why don't you go ahead and try out? And so I said, okay. I found the strength to go and try out. And I went to, they had a 2-week training. And so I went to the cheerleading training, and the first thing, and I was petrified, absolutely petrified. You can imagine, if I can't look at somebody in their eyes, I'm going to go out for cheerleader. So the first thing the cheerleader instructor said was, hon, you got to do something with that hair. Okay, get it out of your face. So my options were a ponytail or pigtails. And so I chose pigtails. That's what I wore all the time. And so during this training, I remember the instructor saying, no matter what happens during the tryouts on the stage, keep going. Just keep going. Now, at night, when I would go home from tryouts, I would think, you know, we get into the house. I would think, how am I ever going to be cheerleader? I knew no one. I had no friends. Nobody knew me. How was I going to become a cheerleader? It was really going to be a quite impossible task, right? So the day came for the tryouts, and my name was called. The whole student body's gathered. I run out to the stage. I get my knee up to do my cartwheel round off. That long pigtail, when I did put my foot back down to do my gymnastic, my foot grabbed the pigtail. Bam! I fell flat on my back on the stage. Oh my gosh, people were laughing. The student body was, roaring. To me, it felt like they were roaring with laughter, right? I wanted to get up and run and keep running and never stop. Have you ever felt like that in your life? Yeah. Yes, raise your hand if you have, right? Oh, everybody has. Oh, thank God. I'm not alone, thank God. So I remember while I was on the floor, I remember what the cheerleader instructor said. No matter what happens, keep going. So I finally scraped myself up off the floor, and I started doing my cheer, go, 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 go. And then I went back, and the other girls tried out. Now, this school took their cheerleader tryouts very seriously. They had boating booths set up in the gymnasium. And so, I'm sitting there, and I'm listening to people as they're going to vote, the student body. And I hear, what was that funny girl's name that fell on her pigtail on her back? Students were going, oh gosh, what was her name? I was like, Cindy! Cindy! Anyway, somebody said Cindy. I don't know who it was that said Cindy, okay, but somebody said Cindy. I made cheerleader that year. What were the odds of me making cheerleader? 0 to none. That defeat was the gift to me. Now, do you think I would have made cheerleader without that happening? No. I would not have made cheerleader without that happening. I can promise you that. I went on to become, I went out for cheerleader year after year after year. That you might think, oh, well, isn't that a sweet story? No, I'm telling you something. That incident, that event in my life changed my life. It pulled me out of my shell. What would I have done had I not made cheerleader? Well, we go on. Then something greater would have happened probably. But that pulled me out of my shell. That defeat was such a beautiful happening for me. And it's okay, God's calling. He's saying, I'm so glad you were cheerleader, Cindy. God's going, that was me making you fall. I went on to try out year after year. I became the longest running head cheerleader in the history of the school. Now, what were the odds of that ever happening? A girl that couldn't speak her name or look at anybody's face. So the universe has our back. When these incidents that happen that look like defeat, that look like there's no way, that's where we have to step in and trust the process. Yes, I'm going to believe that what is unfolding is going to be for my greater good, right? That's where we need to come from with that. It's taken years to see how that was meant to unfold for me. But as I have stepped into these spiritual principles, I can see that when we need to step into that energy. Events are unfolding the way they're meant to unfold, and we have to step into. Well, it helps if we step into that process. So our first step is trust the process, even when it looks very difficult and very hard. How many of you remember that song, if you've ever heard it, the country and western song, Thank God for Unanswered Prayers? Do y'all know it? If you know it, raise your hand. Okay, yeah. He's a young man who had prayed and prayed and prayed for this girl, his girlfriend, to love him and wanted to marry her. And it didn't manifest in that way. And he was heartbroken over it. And they ran into each other years later. And he looked at his own wife and he thought, and looked at her, and they had nothing to say to one another really. And he just thought, oh, thank God for unanswered prayers that I am with who I'm with today. I have another story I want to tell you, and I do have permission to share this story. We have a congregant here in our congregation, and she thought she was having a heart attack. And she went to the hospital, and they did a full body scan on her, and it turned out she wasn't having a heart attack, but what they did find in the scan was she had a small growth in her lung, the lower lobe of her lung. And so because they found it early and have treatment early, her healing is going to be great and she'll have success of recovery. So when we're listening, she initially felt like, oh my heavens, I feel like I'm having a heart attack. Which was not a good thing, but that took her to the hospital to bring her to the awareness of what was going on in her body and to have the treatment that she needs to have. So again, it goes back to what? Trusting the process. Say it with me. Trusting the process. The second point is surrender. And I want to say thank you to my coworker and my dear, dear friend, Tanya Presley. We were discussing the talk, and we were talking about our spiritual principles, and she brought up surrender. Thank you for that. We have to surrender to what is happening and what is going on. And when we do that, it doesn't always feel good. It's like I was involved in Harvey. How many of you were affected by Harvey? So then you know. You have to feel the emotion of that. Your home is flooded. I didn't know whether I was going to be going back to my home or not because it was flooded so badly. I had to come to the realization I might lose my home and have to do something else. But in the middle of all of that, I just kept surrendering. This something is coming out of this. I have to feel the anxiety and the upsetness around it. But I have to surrender to the process of knowing that the greater good is going to unfold. And again, we get stuck in sometimes to the hows, do we not? The dreaded hows. How's this going to happen? What's going to do? I'm wishing or wanting this. How's that going to be? So my brother, Byron, always wanted to be an airplane pilot. In school, he would get in so much trouble. In elementary school and junior high, he would just be looking out the window, daydreaming, watching the clouds. He wanted to be an airplane pilot. After he graduated from high school, our family did not have the money to send him to flight school, so he became a photographer at the Burns Institute in Galveston. And he became a very good photographer. He was awarded for his works. But his passion and his desire and his love was flying. And so after years of serving there, his boss said, Cline, he said, you either need to get your heads out of the clouds, because that's all they ever talked about was flying. He said, or quit and go fly. Well, my brother was like, how? How am I going to do this? I have this good job here. How am I going to do this? What's going to happen? My brother did quit his job, though. He trusted that instinct. He surrendered to that calling and that desire. How many of us have a calling and a desire? How many have a desire? How many have a calling that your heart is soul is calling you to. What do you need to do? You have to surrender to it. What happens if you keep fighting it? Misery, right? You end up driving everybody else crazy. He was driving everybody crazy. So he quit that job and moved his wife to Austin, and he went to work at a small airport, pumping gas for the airplanes, so that he could be at the airport and be in the midst of this and be working on his pilot ratings. So one night, this is a true story. These are true stories. One night, a person was there waiting for the plane to come in, and it got delayed. My brother was the only person at the airport other than the man waiting for a plane to come in. The plane got delayed, and my brother told the man, he said, you know what? When the plane comes in, you and your friend just push the button on that door and lock it. Then I'm going flying. Just lock the door when you leave. Really? Really? So the man said, can I go flying with you? And I said, I don't care, come on. So my brother takes this man flying, and my brother's doing all kinds of maneuvers in the sky, and just flying and having a great time. When they land and they're walking back towards the terminal, the man said, do you know who I am? My brother said, no, I don't know who you are. He said, I own Rio Airlines, which was a small, successful commuter airline back in the day. Some of you are shaking your heads. Yes, anybody remember Rio Airlines? I am really going way back now. He said, be at my office in Cline in 2 days. My brother said, well, what kind of aircraft do you have? And the man said, whatever it was. My brother said, well, I'm not rated on that. And he said, don't worry about it, we'll pay for your training. So my brother got hired with Rio Airlines. And then he went on to get more ratings. And my brother went on to become captain for American Airlines. Those dreaded hows, we don't need to worry about the dreaded hows. We have to hold the vision. We have to surrender to the desire and the want and hold the vision. The hows will work themselves out. Now, who could have thought that would have happened for my brother, right? What are the odds that the owner of Rio Airlines was sitting there waiting for a plane to come in and that the plane would be delayed, right? Okay, so that was our second point. Surrender, surrender, surrender. Say it with me, surrender. Surrender to your desire. Our third point is, and the last point, is our relationship with the divine. That's our last point for tonight. We are spiritual beings here on this planet having a human experience. When we get out of our heads and out of the workings of this physical plane, Jesus said, be in the world but not of the world. What does that mean? What does that mean? We're here in this human experience, and how we navigate it and tap into our divinity is how we are able, tapping into our divinity is how we're able to navigate our experience here. And I will tell you, if we're strictly doing it from our humanness, it's not a lot of fun, is it? Is it? Okay, it is tapping into that divinity and trusting the process and knowing without a doubt that what it is that you are trying to create in your life is there. So, how do we tap into our divinity? This ministry and these spiritual tools and these teachings really have taught me how to navigate our experience here. And quite frankly, I don't know that I'd be standing here today. I really don't, if it hadn't been for this spiritual community. I came here when I was 25 years old, and I was church shopping. I was looking for a church that was all-inclusive of all people. And I would sit in the pyramid. There was no big sanctuary here at the time. I would sit in the pyramid and typically cry throughout service and then bolt. I just wanted to get the spiritual principles and leave. And then one day I decided, you know what? Just like back in junior high, I didn't know anybody here. I wanted to get to know somebody, so I volunteered. And that's how I got plugged into the community. Oh, what a community it is. What a tremendous community. And like all of you, I too have had my share of valleys and peaks. I've lost 5 family members to suicide. Had it not been for these spiritual principles here at this ministry and this spiritual community, loving me, teaching me how to grieve and navigate this, again, I don't know that I would be standing here tonight visiting with you. So, whatever we're facing in our life, the universe has your back. The universe has your back. You're not facing it alone, and you have the strength to walk through it. So, trust the process. Surrender to what is and surrender to what's calling you higher. And spend time developing your relationship with your divinity, with the divinity that flows in and through you. You are a divine being. The universe is always conspiring for your greater good. The universe has your back. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And for this Wednesday Night Satsang, we do a spiritual dialogue. It's just a time for us to give feedback and converse and see what's going on, see what's alive and what's up for us tonight. And, you know, I hope you all feel as inspired as I do with these stories and just your energy. And I'm really interested in the process. I'm very much interested in the process of the spiritual path, I think, is the process, the life that we lead, and the surrendering, the ability to receive, the letting go so that the new can come in.
Yes.
And that's what we're all here to do, I believe, as spiritual explorers. So, yeah, deeply, deeply touched.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
You know what I really loved in the story, and I can see the power of spiritual community in this, is how when it was the cheerleading tryouts, for example, your mother kept encouraging you.
Yes.
Now, I know this is something you want.
Yes.
She believed that you should go forth and do it. And then with your brother, with that boss, is, are you going to do it? Or are you
Yes.
just going to keep talking about it?
Right.
And I just think of it, you know, in this community, I look and I know of people in this room, my beautiful coworkers over there, you, Cindy, you, Shirley, that have helped me, you know, in whatever it is that I want to do next. You've been talking about this.
Yes.
This is an idea. It can stay in the realm of ideas, or you can surrender to it, try it, trust that you may try it, fail. And what is failure other than just trying, right? And you get back up, you learn something. Like you said, you stood out because of your so-called failure on your birthday scale.
Right.
But that made you unique. That made you stick in people's minds, right?
Yes.
And that's what enabled your success there.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
We love those stories of the underdog who triumphs, the person who goes through difficulties and then comes out. So yeah, it made you very memorable, and the fact that you got up and stuck with it and did what you came there to do. That's I'm sure that resonated with that triumph. And another thing I'm thinking about from your talk tonight is the community level, the group level, the world level, because we know that there's challenges in at every level where we're involved, where we have relationships, where we take action. And the same principles, we can apply those there as well. So even when, you know, we're looking at hardship in the world, difficulty, challenges, trusting that process, that sometimes it takes a long time, it seems like, to see the change, to see the transformation that we really want to see. So that patience, that faith, that, you know, surrounding ourselves with upliftment, with people who care, with people who remind us when we get discouraged.
Absolutely. And you know, it's a spiritual community that means so much. As Stacy and Shirley were saying, having people that do believe in you and do encourage you and do love you through whatever you're going through, that has really been a life changer and saver for me on my journey, you know, and learning those spiritual principles and those spiritual tools. Yeah. So.
You know, I also really appreciated how you called them the dreaded hows.
Yes.
Because as soon, I don't know about you, as soon as I can even, it's a daydream and I'm already thinking logistics.
Right.
Like, wouldn't this be cool if this happened? I'm like, well, it couldn't happen on a Tuesday.
Right.
You know, like my mind is supposed to start, how exactly would this happen? And it was at a workshop here at Unity, I think it was in maybe 2019, Cynthia James came.
Oh,
And
yes.
I will never forget this. I don't know if this was her quote or where she got it from, but she said, if God has placed a desire on your heart, it already comes with a delivery mechanism. So you don't have to worry how it's going to, all the steps to do to get it delivered here. You just need to do the next thing.
Yes.
And that was so powerful to
Yes.
me that, okay, you know, this is here. Let's just see how it naturally emerges. I just need to do the next thing, then the next thing, not well, 47.
Right, at once. Yes, take the next step and the next step. I loved our co-worker and friend Tanya has in her office, it has the word hows, and then, you know, it's a big circle with the line through it, no. When we hold to the vision, and you're exactly right, the hows will all work themselves out. It's our job to hold to the vision and keep taking a step forward and another step forward.
And I think that's our work. That's what we really do, is that we can stand in this truth, stand in this knowing, in this awareness, this understanding, regardless of what is going on in the world, especially in the face of some of the trials and tribulations going on, that we build this foundation and draw on this foundation and just continue these teachings and take it forward out into the world.
Yes, absolutely.
And this is how we change ourselves, and ultimately then how the world changes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
After the service, you'll have two opportunities. You can meet with Cindy out in the hallway. Well, we've started having a little prayer circle after the service, so anybody who wants to stay a bit will circle up over there and bring any cares, concerns, any joys of celebrations, and we'll get to hear each other, get to know you better.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.